So yun mga ka-integ, since tapos na tayo dun sa change of variables, pattern recognition, so apply natin ngayon yung mga pinaghalo-halong techniques na ito para ma-solve yung ating mga problems from A to O dun sa page, sa page ito. Basta dun sa other techniques, other important techniques in basic integration, yung mga items. Okay? So without further ado, let's start solving it. Okay, so unahin natin itong letter A. It says that we need to integrate 3dx divided by 2 plus e to the x. Eh, di ba yung ating usually goal natin is to fit this certain integrand into the rules. Pero pag wala naman, so we have to do something to the integrand. Now, imagine we have e to the x dito. And we usually know na pag meron tayong e to the x, meron dapat tayong multiplier na e to the x para ma-integrate natin siya in a way na merong certain answer dun sa ating integrand na yon. Pero what happens when wala talagang way para magawa to? So what we will do here is to multiply both numerator and denominator by e to the x. So this one is a case-to-case basis. Hindi lahat ganito yung gagawin natin. That's why this one is under the other important techniques in basic integration. That's why when you see something like that in that form, so this is supposedly what you are to do. So in this case, I will try to redefine the equation by multiplying it by e to the x. So this gives me, okay, so multiply lang natin yan ng e to the x, both sides, both numerator, denominator. And wala naman talagang nabago dyan kasi ito is 1 lang, diba? So we can rewrite this in terms of 3e to the x and then 2 plus e to the x times e to the x, which, of course, ito, pwede natin siyang i-further rewrite by expanding. So with this, pwedeng ating denominator maging 2e to the x plus e to the 2x. Okay? So ito yung ating pwedeng maging form. Now, ano ba yung sunod natin na steps na gagawin? So, di ba, ito pwede natin siyang i-let u equal to e to the x. Okay? And then the derivative would be equal to e to the x dx. Okay? Now, try nating ibalik itong ating x in terms of u. So, with that, we have the integral of, alam naman natin na this one is e to the x dx. So, if you try to copy this e to the x dx, so matitira lang dito is 3 du. Okay? So, you might be thinking na bakit sir hindi siya 3u? So, pwede naman yon. Pero kasi itong dx na to, since tawag dito, pwede naman yon, but this e to the x dx ay much easier na gamitin natin. Kasi kung halimbawa, gawin natin siyang 3u. So, 3u. Kasi nga, e to the x to, diba? Yung dx kasi, kukunin pa natin ulit dyan yung du over e to the x, which will give you du over u, which cancels out u as well. So, matitira na lang is du. So, either way, kahit gamitin mo siya is 3u and then du over u, magka-cancel out ka rin. So, mas madali itong gamitin. No? And then, we divide this by 2u plus, of course, u squared. Okay? Okay, so with this, pwede na natin siyang integrate kasi madali na siyang ma-solve, no? Pero how do we solve for this kung halimbawa meron tayong constant dito and then meron tayong 2u dito plus u squared? Wala naman to sa rule natin before, diba? Pero ang gagawin natin dito na sunod is we will try to complete the square of the denominator para mag-fit siya dun sa certain rule natin, which is the inverse trigonometric function. So we have u squared plus 2u, and then yung by completing the square we have plus 1 here kasi diba this one is 2u divided by u, and then so ito kaya 1 kasi diba yung ating 2u pag dinivide natin to sa pag tinanggal natin yung variable which is u and then divide natin tong to sa 2, diba 1 yon. So square natin yung 1, ito yung kakalabasan niya, so positive 1. And then of course kung nag-add tayo ng 1 dito, babawas tayo ng 1 pa. So, ito yung completing the square natin na sinasabi, diba? So, kung nagawa na rin yun, supposedly yun before. So, You just have to take this as your first term, then yung second term is tu, 2u, sige, gawin natin dito ng separate. So, di ba, meron ka u squared, and then ito yung second term. So, you want to find the last term. So, what you have to do is to take the coefficient of this one, take 1/2 b. So, halimbawa, ito yung b, ito yung coefficient nung second term. So, and then you square that. Okay? So, ito yung magiging last term mo. So, in short, kung b dito is equal to 2, then you take 1/2 of 2, that's 1, and then square that. So, that will be positive 1. And then, whatever you add here, you should subtract it. Or kung halimbawa, nag-subtract ka naman, pero usually hindi ganon, add usually. So, you subtract whatever you have added. Para wala nangyari. Kasi, di ba, kung kakancel out mo to, back to the original equation lang tayo. So, ano ba yung reason ba't ko ginawa yun? Kasi, after completing the square, you'll be able to get the fitting integrand for this one. So, this becomes u plus 1 quantity squared minus 1. So, ang ang ginawan ko ng perfect square ay itong u squared plus 2u plus 1. Tinira ko tong minus 1. So, yun. Pag in-evaluate nyo yan, makukuha nyo tong gantong term. Same lang din yan nitong nasa taas. And now, ano ba yung ating rule na nagbibigay sa atin ng gantong form? Kung matatanda niyo yung ating rules sa inverse trigo, so ano kaya yun? Alam naman natin na yung gantong form is something like yung variable squared minus constant squared. And we can rewrite this in terms of negative, the integral of 3 du divided by 1 minus u plus 1 squared, which will give us yung form na a squared minus x squared dun sa ating denominator. So with this, we can now take the fitting integrand for this. So this becomes the 1 over a. So yung a natin dito is this 1, positive 1. So that is 1 over 1. Of course, that will be negative. So negative 1 over 1, that's 1 over a. Then the inverse hyperbolic tangent of x over a. In this case, yung x natin is u plus 1. So that becomes u plus 1, okay, and then divide by square root of 1, which is also 1. Okay, and then of course, you add the constant of integration. And remember, this one is a scalar multiple of this du over 1 minus u plus 1 quantity squared. So you still have to incorporate yung ating scalar multiple na 3 or multiplier na 3. Okay? So, ito pwedeng i-view mo as nasa labas na siya ng ating equation. It's just that we need to add not add but multiply. So, upon substitution, we can obtain something like negative 3 inverse hyperbolic tangent of, so this becomes u plus 1 na lang, no? And then yung ating u is e to the x. So, this becomes e to the x plus 1 and then plus c. Okay? So, this is your final answer in this problem. Okay, so if you want to check this, so let's try checking this, no? I think I'll just be doing it here sa baba. I'll try to differentiate this expression. So, let me just use another color. Okay, so try natin itong i-differentiate para mapalabas natin yun kung tama ba siya. So, we have negative 3 multiplied by the inverse tangent of this hyperbolic inverse tangent of e to the x plus 1. So, alam naman natin na if you have this form, so you have 1 divided by, so yung constant muna natin, so in this case, di ba para siyang over 1? So, that becomes 1 squared minus e to the x plus 1 squared. And then you have to differentiate yung ating inner function, that is e to the x. Okay, so this is the derivative of this expression, and then I'll try to simplify this. So we have negative 3 e to the x divided by 1 minus e to the 2x plus 2 e to the x and then plus 1, which ito yung minus 1. Itong expression to is nakasubtract siya sa buong whole expression. So with this, we can say na negative 3 e to the x, then this one could be something like, makakancel natin, di ba, yung 1 dito. So this leaves us yung negative e to the 2x plus 2 e to the x dx. Kalimutan ko yung dx. Okay? So, with this, pwede naman natin ngayon i-take out yung ating, this should be negative pala. Kasi I'm trying to distribute yung ating negative sign. So, magiging negative to lahat, diba? So, with this, I can now factor out negative e to the x in this expression. So, we have negative e to the x times 3 dx divided by negative e to the x dito sa whole expression na to. So, we'll be left out with e to the x. So, remember, pag tayo nagmumultiply nung may same base, na-add lang yung exponent natin. So, this holds true for this expression. So, we have plus 2. Okay? And then we can cancel out this e to the x, and yun, we're left out with this 3, the negative multiply. So, we're left out with this 3 dx over e to the x plus 2, which is the same as this integrand. Okay? So, mapapansin nyo, ang nagpadali lang sa atin dyan is by multiplying e to the x over e to the x dun sa ating expression. And had this been other approach, medyo mahirap to kung itatry natin mag-let u na diretso. Halimbawa, tinry nyo, let u is equal to e to the x. So, wala kayong makukuha dyan sagot kasi hindi siya mag-fit dun sa ating any rule. Okay, so for this next item, what we have here is the integral of cotangent x multiplied by the natural logarithm of sine x dx. Okay, so can you imagine these terms being multiplied to each other? So, ang una natin dyan is finding u substitution if it is possible. Kung hindi kaya ng pattern recognition, of course, and then usually yun na yung last resort mo kung basic rules lang siya. So, in this case, diba, we can say na we can let u equal to the ln or natural logarithm of sine x. So, why is that? So, kasi pag differentiate natin to, di ba alam naman natin na this becomes 1 over sine x, and then the derivative of sine x is cosine x dx, which further gives us the value of cotangent x dx. And it makes sense na pinakamadaling way ito para ma-solve natin tong expression na to. So, this becomes the integral of u du itself. Kasi yun na yun eh. May ln na tayo, ln sine of x, so dito yung u, and then cotangent x dx would be the u itself. So with this, we can integrate this in a way na power rule. So this becomes u squared over 2 plus c. Which in turn, pag sinubstitute natin yung value nun, we can just say na this one is the natural logarithm squared of sine x divided by 2 plus c. Okay, and then yun nga, pag dinifferentiate natin to, makukuha mo dyan is supposedly this integrand. Okay, and this one is a fairly easy example of letting u substitution come in handy. And naman, parang ano lang siya, 3-step, 4-step lang yung ating solution. Unlike yung number 1 na medyo nagkaroon pa tayo ng complication na kailangan natin siyang i-redefine. Okay, usually nag-o-occur lang naman to sa mga e to the x setting eh, pero pag na-discuss na natin, tinatawag natin na trigonometric substitution, this kind of examples would be a lot easier than you trying to identify what has to be done first, like redefining or whichever is applicable. Okay, so now for this next item, what we have is 3 minus e to the x and then yung buong quantity raised to square or squared dx. So, unlike dun sa letter A, kung mapansin nyo, hindi siya rational expression, kundi parang ano lang siya. Hindi siya rational expression. So, in short, wala siyang divisor na variable. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon, pagka may gantong term, and then we have to raise that certain binomial or trinomial in a certain power, the easiest way that we can deal with this is kung halimbawa, low value lang naman yung ating mga exponent, let's say 1, 2, 3, or even 4, we can just expand this and try to integrate that without letting any u substitution. So, bakit ba ganon? Kasi walang sense kung gagamitan natin siya ng u substitution in this case. Kasi the derivative would be e to the x still. And then wala naman tayo ditong e to the x na nakikita eh, diba? So, it is understandable na hindi mo kailangan mag-let u. So, what we have to do here is to expand the term. So, in this case, the integral would be something like 9 minus, so mag-expand lang ako, no? So, diba, this is 3 e to the x times 2, so that becomes 6 e to the x, and then plus e to the 2x, okay, and then dx, okay? So, in this case, as you can see, pwede natin siyang integrate directly, no? Kasi sila ay fitting integrand. So, with this, the integral would be 9x Okay? Kasi ito is constant, so attach attach the variable itself, so that's 9x, then minus, this one is 6e to the x, and we know very well na yung ating derivative of e to the x is e to the x as well as the antiderivative. So just have to copy e to the x, and then since this is scalar multiple, so just have to copy your constant. Okay, that's 6e to the x as well. Then for this one, wala naman tayong constant, so just copy your e to the 2x kasi yun din yung antiderivative niya. But remember, by chain rule of differentiation, may lalabas ditong 2. So you have to find the inverse operation of that. So by multiplication, you will be having this division in this case. So that's 1/2 e to the 2x. So hopefully, mas nag-guess nyo na yung idea kung ba't may 1/2 dito ha. Kasi before, I used to tell you something about this from the chain rule itself. Na kapag meron tayong multiplier from the derivative na any scalar multiple, we usually have to settle it with the inverse operation. So had this been 1/2, so ang multiply nyo is ano? So that should be 2. Kasi dapat reciprocal na nung minumultiply natin or inverse operation niya. Okay, so hope nag-guess nyo to ng maigi, no? So plus c. Actually, we can rewrite this further. So we can say na ito yung 9x minus 6 e to the x plus 1/2 e to the 2x plus c. Okay, so you might be thinking, parang di naman sir kamukha nung nito yung pag-differentiate natin yan. Well, sa unang derivative niyan is hindi talaga yan kamukha. Kasi halimbawa, differentiate natin to, diba? Diba magiging 9 yan? Minus, actually babalik lang ako dito eh. 9 minus 6 e to the x plus 1/2 e to the 2x times 2 dx. Diba ganyan siya sa una? Okay? And then, kakancel out natin to. So, from this expression, dun mo lang ma-gets na we can do, this trinomial can be formed in a perfect square binomial. So, that becomes something like 3 minus e to the x, and then you have to square that and then dx. So this is the expression for this, which is the exact integrand in this case. So hopefully nagigets nyo yung ating mga pinagagawang mathematical operations ito kasi medyo ano siya eh, medyo nag-employ tayo ng iba't ibang rules ng trigo, algebra, logarithmic functions. So hopefully you're not forgetting those very important rules na nagmamatter dito sa ating discussion ng other important techniques. Okay, so let's proceed to letter D. Alam nyo yung integral calculus. This one is matututo ka lang dito pag palagi ka nagsosolve kasi if you're not solving and then you're just let's say memorizing patterns, hindi talaga siya effective. What you have to do here is to solve talaga. Kasi, yun talaga practice yan eh. Kasi, alam naman natin na yung ating utak ay muscle yan eh. So, kung hindi pa na-exercise ang muscle memory mo, so, hindi mo talaga kayang isolve yung mga gantong cases na medyo kind of complicated pag first time mo siyang nakita. Kaya, you have to deal with it lagi. Not lagi, but almost all the time talaga, i-deal natin itong mga gantong cases. Okay, so never mind. The next one is we have a rational expression tas meron din siyang cosine theta dun sa ating denominator. Actually, this one looks like letter A, pero instead of having e to the x, meron na tayong cosine theta. So, ano kaya sa tingin niyo yung pwede natin ditong gawin para ma-solve natin yung gantong expression? So, for cases like this, you can now do redefining or multiply this to a certain variable na pwede nating after evaluation or after applying some properties, pwede natin siya ma-solve na, no? And what I'll be doing here is I'll try to solve this by multiplying it to its conjugate. So, pag minultiply ko to by the conjugate ng denominator which is 1 plus cosine of theta, so yun, di ba? D theta. So, wala akong ginawa talaga ditong different kasi 1 lang naman equivalent to. I just have to multiply this with its conjugate. Siyempre, kung ano yung multiply mo sa denominator, yun din yung sa numerator. Hindi pwedeng magkaiba yan, ha? Mali yun. So, kung ganito gagawin natin, meron tayong 2 times 1 plus cosine of theta d theta. Sa taas ko na ito ilalagay, no? And then divided by 1 minus cosine squared theta. Okay. Now, if this is the case, then, diba, pwede natin itong i-write in terms of 2 times 1 plus cosine of theta d theta. And then this one would be something like sine squared theta. Okay. So does it make sense na if we have this form, we can actually solve for this in terms of sine squared theta. And bakit importante siya, no? Now remember, if I will be distributing our numerator, so magiging ano yan? Magiging 2 plus 2 cosine theta, okay? Ganyan, d theta. And then this one is sine squared theta. And then I can now try to rewrite this na paghihiwalay natin yung ating mga numerator with respect to denominator kasi single ano lang yung ating denominator, single term lang. So we can just rewrite this in terms of 2 over sine squared theta d theta and then plus, so that becomes 2 cosine theta sine squared theta d theta. Okay? So does it make sense now na itong first term, lagyan natin ito ng integral sign. So itong first term, we can now simplify this further into something like 2 cosecant squared theta d theta. Correct? Kasi 'di ba ang sine, ang kanyang inverse is cosec, not inverse but yung reciprocal function niya is cosecant theta. Kasi pag cosine is secant. So usually ganun lang naman yun kung ano yung matitira eh. So anyway, so 'di ba this one's cosecant squared theta d theta and then plus the integral of hayaan ko na lang siya na ganyan kasi makita nyo ba't ko siya hinayaan na ganyan na lang. Okay, so with this, I can now actually integrate. So, bakit kaya pwede na ako mag-integrate? Kasi remember, itong sine squared theta, kahit di natin siya i-let you, alam natin ang derivative niya is cosine theta. So, with this, using the power rule, pwede natin siya directly ma-solve. So, di ba? Pwede na yan. So, with this, ano ba yung antiderivative ng cosecant squared theta? So, di ba alam naman natin na pag tangent, that will be secant squared theta. So, usually, yung counterpart nun, which would be cotangent. So, yun ang derivative ng cosecant squared theta. And if you try to integrate that, take the antiderivative. So, that would be the resulting function. So, that will be cotangent squared theta. But remember, when we are solving for this antiderivative and the answer would be something like negative. So, we still have to incorporate the sign. So, this will be negative 2 cotangent theta. Okay, so makes sense because the negative 2 times the derivative of this cotangent theta would be negative cosecant squared theta, and then the derivative of theta would be simply d theta. Okay, and then we proceed with the next one here. So this one, I'll just copy the scalar multiple, which is 2, and then the antiderivative of cosine theta divided by sine squared theta would be something like, divide this one can be written in terms of cosine theta times sine to the negative 2 theta. So with this, I can now apply the power rule. So this becomes sine raised to negative 1 divided by negative 1. So this becomes, actually lalagay ko siya sa ilalim kasi magmumukha siyang inverse sine. So magiging 2 divided by sine theta na lang to. And then of course, we have to incorporate the negative sign. So this should be something like negative 2 sine over sine theta plus c. Okay, so this is your answer. Okay, so hopefully nakasunod kayo ba't naging ganito, no? Now, kung hindi kayo makasunod at nagtataka kayo ba't naging 2 over sine theta lang siya, try natin ngayon na mag-let u for the sake of everyone. So we let u equal to sine theta. I just want to prove something here, no? So alam naman natin na the derivative of u would be cosine theta d theta. Now let's try substituting ito dun sa ating equation na to. So that will be integral of 2 du, kasi cosine theta d theta na to, divided by u squared. Okay? And then, does this make perfect sense now? Kasi magiging ano yan, 2 the integral of du over u squared which can now be evaluated in terms of u to the negative 2 du, which of course power rule na yan. Okay? That's why kung power rule yan, magiging ano lang yan, u raised to negative 2 plus 1 divided by negative 2 plus 1, which in turn, this becomes u raised to negative 1. That's why bumaba na yung sign dito, kasi I want to write this in terms of nasa denominator, kasi if I do it na raised to negative 1, bumukha siyang inverse, and I'm trying to avoid that. And then of course divide by negative 1, so kaya naging negative itong positive sign kanina natin dito. Okay, so hopefully I nag-guess itong for letter D. Okay, so I think let's proceed to the next number now, if you don't have any question. But of course, if you have any questions, pwede naman i-raise yun agad siya sa akin before our scheduled consultation. Okay.